19 participants now in the room. So so let me start anyway. I will try to save everybody's time, and I hope we will be able to finish as it is planned. Um, so thank you first of all for joining this event, and it's not the first one, so I really grateful to you for joining us on a regular basis. So I hope you find it positive and helpful for you, and also useful as we do. Today's session we would like to split into two parts. During the first part, we're gonna have the training webinar with our partner university. And the second part will be, we would like to, spend on discussion on the preparation for the May 27 event with the agencies, with our partners. So I would like to give a floor to Miss Inna Pevneva. She is the head of international department of the Kuzbas Technical State University. So from the city of Kemerovo. So actually Kuzbas is not even a city, it's the region. It's the coal mining capital of Russia. And I mean, I don't know how much coal is actually being mined over there, but sure
60% of the world.
All right, so it's much. Yeah, so I hope that our colleague Ms. Pevneva will be able to give us some spirit of this very brutal part of the region, but still she will speak about opportunities of studying and living in Russia. And as we have discussed with you before, this will be the lection or webinar which will lead to the level 3 certificate for all the participants. So please kindly let's give a floor to Ms. Pevneva, so and we will find out more about how it is to study and live in Russia.
Thank you very much, Dmitry. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who joined this session, and thank you to the organizers for their invitation. And let me share the presentation with you. Let's see. Yeah, just a second, because again, we have the same problems with my computer seeing the presentation. Let's see. Okay, just a minute, please.
Would you like some help maybe from
yeah, just a second. Yeah, I opened it and I think it should appear in the history now. So let's see if it works.
All right.
Okay, can you see this? Okay, great. Okay, sorry for the delay. So like this, right? Okay. So, dear everyone, today I'd like to talk to you about education and life in Russia. What expectations can exchange students have, and what challenges do they face? And I'm planning to talk about academic programs which regular Russian university can offer, specifics of some education in Russia, advantages, and some cultural aspects which are also very important for international students. But before, let me just say a few words about myself. So my name is Inna, and at present time, I'm the head of the international department of Kuzbas Technical University. It is the second largest technical university in Russia. And as Dmitry said already, we are the heart of the industrial region. It's coal mining region. And of course, the industry needs specialists in this sphere. And this is why the university offers one of the best programs in mining engineering, as well as power or electricity engineering. The university has 6 institutions all in all: construction, management and economics, IT, motor transport. But those 2 mining institutions are the most popular, and not only among Russian students, but also among international students. So the university welcomes international students for foundation course as well. This is an 8-month program before they enter the university, and English program. Myself, I'm engaged in international students relations coordination for over 15 years already. And I've been a participant of several international exchanges myself, both as a student in 90s, and I worked as a teacher of Russian as foreign language in Turkish university and also in Chile for some time. So I have quite a lot of experience of working with international students, knowing what their problems are and some of the aspects of their easier adaptation. So I know you've had some information already about the Russian educational system, but let me just in a few words review the general information. So what system do we have at present? There is a preschool education or kindergartens. So children usually go there at the age of 3. Then they go to the secondary education in the school. Finish school with unified state examination. This results of this examination allow students to enter the university. And of course, it depends on the university that requires their general score of the examination. And moving on to the higher education, we have higher education, and I'll be speaking about it in more detail a little bit later. And after higher education, we have postgraduate, professional retraining, and MBA programs, which is Master of Business Administration programs, quite popular, I would say, nowadays. So let's focus on academic programs, which we have in higher education. Almost every university has now a foundation course. Foundation course is very important because it gives international students the opportunity to get to know the university before they actually enter some of their university degree program. Usually this is 8 months, at least in our university. It's run from September to May. Of course, the focus is on Russian language preparation because most of their universities have their majors in Russian. Besides, foundation course in technical universities offer not only preparation in Russian language, but also in math, physics, and computer science. So after foundation course, all students receive their certificate, which allow them to enter a technical university. There is also non-university level professional education. This level is similar to community colleges, which there are in many countries in the US as well. So students who do not want to go to their senior years in high school, then they can enter this educational program. So they can have, after graduating, they can either go for higher education, for example, for bachelor or specialist degree, or they can still just graduate and have a profession which can support them. As for the higher education, we have bachelor, master, specialist degrees. With the transition of Russia to Bologna process, most of the universities have switched into this system. Yeah, so bachelor degree for 4 years and master degree afterwards for 2 years. But some of the universities still keep the specialist degree. And this is the degree which is run for 5 to 6 years regularly. For example, in our university for technical majors such as mining, there is only specialist degree. So they study for 5.5 years. And actually, what the research shows that the employers, they value specialist degree much more than the bachelor degree. So it depends from the universities, but still they can offer educational programs, mostly bachelor or specialist. Postgraduate, of course, is for the student, is open for the student who are interested in their science afterwards in writing a thesis. And education, additional education. Those are professional retraining programs, including Master of Business Administration, which is quite popular. Professional retraining is also getting very important because there are a lot of adults who have graduated from university a long time ago, and they need to refresh their knowledge, to acquire some new additional skills. And this is when their professional retraining programs can help. And starting from this year, maybe their situation have just made a push to this. Our university is planning to have to launch 2 distant professional retraining degrees for the next year, also in mining and in power engineering. So I think this is also quite interesting for international students. Let us move on, and let's look a little bit about specifics of the university education in Russia. Of course, some of the information will be known to you because it's quite similar to all other universities all around the world, but still we have some of the peculiarities, and for international students, it is very important to know about them. So academic year in Russia for bachelor degree is usually 17 weeks for a bachelor degree, yeah. For specialist, it is less. So winter break and summer breaks are usually the time when students do nothing and international students can go home. The start of the academic year is always on the 1st of September, and I hope it's gonna be the same way this year, but nobody knows exactly. Language proficiency tests are not necessary at the moment. So of course we are testing the knowledge of Russian or English depending on the program where students is applying, but the proficiency tests are not required. It's good if they have it. Upon graduation of the foundation course, all students get a certificate which allows them to enter the university. Of course, it's not upon just visiting this course, they have to have certain results. They have to have pass their final test, yeah, with a certain result. There are 2 exam sessions a year. This is a winter session, which usually is in January. It lasts for about 2.5 weeks, and spring session in June and July. Again, there is a little bit difference between specialist program and bachelor degree program, because bachelors, they study more for 17 weeks, so their session starts later. Usually bachelor students who study for bachelor degree, they can go home at the beginning of July, for sure. In Russia, freshmen and second year students don't have opportunity for optional courses. And this is one of the differences in educational system. I know in many Western universities, students are allowed to take the courses they like right from the start. Yeah, Russian system differs a little bit in this way because students choose their major. For example, if they enter mining department, they study all of their disciplines, all of the courses they have, like foreign language, philosophy, Russian, yeah, and all others for 2 years. So some general courses. But they're not allowed to choose if they want to take it or not. So it's obligatory for all the students. Starting from the 3rd year, yes, they can have some optional courses, and it's usually the choice. So to take this course or to take another course. Russia has adopted a credit system, and in most Russian universities, we do have the credit system. Of course, it is a great advantage because it allows graduates to continue their education after in a foreign university, to find work, yeah, anywhere. And most of the universities, they issue diploma supplement, so which allows students to continue their education, for example, for master degree in another university of another country. Some of the other specifics is that in Russian universities, we have early career development plan. What I mean is that students have to choose their major right from the start. So when they're students, international students, Russian students, it's no matter. When they apply for the program, they have to choose their major already. They can't just enter the university and study for 2 years, like in some of the Western universities, and then choose their major. Yeah, they have to choose the major right from the start. And it is quite difficult to switch from one major to another because their number of subjects, the requirements can be quite different. In most cases, students study with the same people till they graduate. Yeah, and this is another specifics of Russian education. I would say it's an advantage because very often their group with people who they study become your friends for a lifetime. So it's because the groups which students visit, they fixed, yeah, the same people start with you studying from their first year and graduate with you. So for the 4 or 5 years, students study in the same group. Formal relations are expected between students and teachers, but atmosphere are mostly friendly and based on mutual respect. For some international students, it is very important, yeah, to know what kind of relations to expect from your teacher, from professors you're dealing with. So yes, their authority is important. So there is a distance between students and teachers, but still there is no question. You can always come to a teacher when it's necessary, yeah. All of the problems with international students are solved and the atmosphere is very friendly. But international students shouldn't expect that a teacher will be your friend, like, you know, on the equal basis. So it's not very custom. Students are expected to work independently and do properly all the home assignments. And very often with some of the international students, I hear there are complaints that they are forced to do a lot of homework. Well, yes, it is this way, especially for technical majors. They have a lot of homework, home assignment that they're expected to do independently. So they should learn how to work by themselves, how to do proper home assignment, do it on time. So this is very important. Exams or during the session, exams are often taken in the oral form or online testing. Many universities switch now to the testing, yeah, and going away from their oral form of exams when they, for example, students take a ticket and answer the question, yeah, prepare before. There are pros and cons for this. So from one side, yeah, there are many students who are afraid to speak up and the result may not be what he would do, yeah, if he did it in the written form. But on the other side, this skill of giving a presentation, of knowing how to structure your speech, yeah, especially if you're presenting for a group of teachers, for your mentors, this is a very important skill. So even in, we can say that this is a soft skill, yeah, the global skills which all students have to know, and it doesn't have to have. And it doesn't matter if this is an engineer or this is a manager. So I would say this is more of an advantage as well. There is a specific attitude to students, especially international students in most of the Russian universities. So it's caring and protection attitude. The university always cares for their international students. If there arise any problem, students can always apply to the counselor. There are usually counselors in each of the group. They can always go to the international department. And even the situation which we have nowadays, yeah, there are some of the international students who stay in the university and they're not allowed to go home. Yeah, they might have some financial difficulties. So the universities now do some of their project to help students financially. And it's not scholarship which they pay for education. Yeah, it's a financial help to help them now to buy some food and so on. Students can study free of tuition. It's both for Russian citizens and there are some quotas for international students as well. Tutoring, senior students help and assist junior students. And I would say it is a little bit different from tutoring, like an academic tutoring, when you expect that a senior student will help you with your studies. Tutoring in Russian university is more connected with protection. So when the senior student help junior student to solve some problems with their accommodation, yes, some routine problems, tell them about some of the good places to visit for shopping and so on. So it's more tutoring, like, I don't know, life coaching. International students reside in dormitories, and the average price is very low. So in most of the regional universities, it equals $25 to $30 US dollars a month, which is very funny if you compare it with the prices, yeah, in some of the Western universities. There are different options. So most of the universities can offer rooms for 4 people, and this is the price exactly when you have a room for 4 people. There are options for 2 people, and there are also single rooms. So it all depends on the preferences of a student, on his ability to pay, but it is important that international students stay in dormitories. First of all, it is safer for them. It is easier for universities to do some activities with the students, and just it is more interesting for students themselves, yeah, if they live with other students of their institution, for example. For all international students, health insurance is very necessary. You never know what can happen. Some of the students believe that nothing will happen ever to them, but still health insurance is something we always advise, and it's necessary to have for all international students. Of course, studying in Russian university is not only study. We have a lot of different other activities we can offer, cultural and stage events for students to reveal their talents. There are some shows. If the university has a lot of international students, it's great, because then universities organize different international festivals, competition. And it's a great opportunity even for international students to get to know other cultures other than their own and Russian. And of course, sports. Sports centers are available in most of the universities. It is encouraged that students would go in for sport. It depends on the size of the universities. Bigger universities have their own swimming pools, and of course, all gym facilities and volleyball and basketball. So it's quite popular, and students who are successful in sport, they can also apply for some specific scholarship and financial aid as well. So if we look at the advantages of getting higher education in Russia generally, I would just like to focus on these few points and give a few recommendations, maybe depending on this. So Russian universities offer comprehensive university education. What is meant by comprehensive education is that Russian educational schools are very famous for, and is actually globally recognized, as one of the best world leaders in scientific majors. So in mathematics, chemistry, geology, engineering, like it used to be in Soviet times, yeah? So the quality of education is still kept very, very high, and it's a great opportunity for students to have it, for international students. Russian universities offer the best value for money. So it's the best ratio of price and quality of education. Of course, it depends. Their tuition fee depends on the university. So in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, in central universities, the fees are higher, much higher comparing to the regional universities. Yeah, so it's all up to the students to decide what they choose. Yeah, what location do they choose and how much they are prepared for pay. Just to give you an idea, the average fee of university, I can say for a technical education, for technical majors in regions starts from about 500 $500 per semester. Yeah. So in our university, we have a little bit over 1,000 per year. And it also depends, a little bit varies depending on majors. Probably the most costly education would be in some of the most prestigious university and would equal to, I don't know, $10,000, $11,000. So there is a huge difference, yeah, in tuition and in pricing. International students should and have this great opportunity to learn Russian language. And it doesn't mean they have to use it in their profession, yeah, in the future profession, but it's a great, great advantage for them for their future life. It doesn't matter in what sphere they will go to, depending on their major and their profession, but learning Russian, it's one of their world leading languages, yeah. Of course, it will help them in their future life for sure. Proficiency language test result is optional, as I mentioned already. Easy adaptation for international student. And what I mean easy adaptation is that Russia is a multinational country. So there are maybe over 200 different ethnic representatives and over 100 different languages. Of course, most of them speak Russian as their major language, yeah. But adaptation for international students is quite easy, I would say, especially for Asian students, because of this diversity of even Russian student. And sometimes you can see a person who doesn't look like Russian at all, yeah, but he is Russian. So diversity and tolerance, yeah, to religion. In Russia, you know, there are a lot of Muslim, there are other religions than Orthodox. So Russian students, they get used to this and they accept and they love their international students who study with them. Russia is a big country and we have different climate zones. Of course, it depends on the preferences of international students. It depends on the climate he got used to, but I wouldn't recommend this to be the major factor for choosing, you know, a university. It is even better if you try some other, living in some other climatic zone. And I'll be talking a little bit later about some of the specifics of our region in terms of climate. And of course, culture. Yeah, there is no need to say how rich is Russian culture, how many interesting things you can learn and see. So of course, this is one of the greatest advantages of getting education in Russian university. So speaking about life in Russia, everybody, you know, when you talk to some international students, the first are concerned about their life, yeah, in different climate. So climate, yeah, is different depending on the region. Even in the coldest region, so the region I come from, Kuzbas, it is in the western part of Siberia, and you know the reaction of people when they hear Siberia, but it's not as frightening as it seems, because first of all, we have central heating everywhere. It starts working from September when it gets a little bit cold, but still it's quite warm. Yeah, and the picture is from maybe October. So it's not Siberia, we don't have winter all the year round. But it's not so frightening because central heating is everywhere in all dormitories, in all universities. Of course, winters can be quite harsh, yeah? Minus 20, 25, sometimes 30 degrees Celsius is quite possible. But this is the experience which a student can get, yeah? And it gives an opportunity, you know, to have the experience which he will value later in life. And these are the pictures of some of entertainments our international students like to do. So we had this winter International Polytechnical Winter School, and it is held in a resort, in mountain resort. So students can learn how to mountain ski there. They can ride snowmobiles, yeah, they can ride huskies. So we're not sure if they will be able to do that experience later in their life. Yeah, so it's a great opportunity to take it. There are some of the things that international students should know when they go for studying into Russia. And I would say these are just a few of them, but maybe one of the most crucial. So, of course, you need Russia to go and study to the Russian university. It's a quite lengthy process. So the university issues an invitation. It takes up to 30 days, so almost a month. Yeah. So make sure international students should make sure that they apply on time, yeah, that they will be able to come to get visa, to apply for this and come before the beginning of the academic year. It is important for every international student, no matter what country he's coming from, to follow immigration rules. And immigration rules, of course, are the behavior, yeah, within this law, within immigration rules, is done by the international department. So if the student has any kind of questions, any kind of problems, the international departments of the universities can always help with this. That's why it is important to stay in contact with the international department and tell them about any changes with your status, for example, with your decisions about studying or not studying, and so on. International students shouldn't be offended of attention from other people. Of course, it's not only about Russia. If you go to any other international environment, of course, a student gets an attention. And this attention is not a problem, it's a value. So we encourage our international students to share their culture as well, to be ready to talk about their traditions, share it on festivals, on competitions, on talks, and so on. Moving on to some of the key aspects of life in Russia, I would say probably these are the basic ones. So what is important is to dress according to the weather. Of course, students shouldn't take all the clothes with them, you know, for getting ready for all the seasons right away, but to learn about the region, to learn about their climate, where they are going, is very important. We had a case of a girl, Cisa. She was a Brazilian exchange student, and she came to our university in December, in winter. I met her in the airport. She was in jeans and like light sweatshirt. And at that time in December, we usually have minus 20, 25 degrees Celsius. When I asked her why she didn't bring any warm clothes at all, she said that she watched the video, promotional video of the university, and there was grass and it was green. It was summertime. So she thought there is a summer even right now. So it's important for students to get to know exactly the conditions of the weather conditions as well, yeah, and get prepared for this. Russians do wear hats, not the hat which is on the picture on the bear, not necessarily, but yeah, for some of the international students, we find that it is very strange, yeah, to get used to wearing hats. Food products are not expensive. Every student can find products to cook for himself specific. Yeah, if he's a vegetarian, vegan, Muslim, and so on. It's not a problem. But what is important is to let your host know about your preferences beforehand. For example, if a student is a participant of some summer or winter school and he lives in a family, it is important to let your host family know about your preferences, because not many Russian families are vegetarians, yeah? And it's good if we will choose a family for you which can give you this opportunity and which will support. International students are expected to be communicative and open-minded to peers. Of course, they study, most of the international students, they study together with Russian students. Yeah, very rare we have certain groups of international students who study together. Yeah, it's also possible. But still, if it's a mixed group, of course, international students are expected to be communicative. For the first time, it is okay if they are afraid, because cultural shock experience 90% of all international students. And it takes a month, sometimes 2 months, to get used to the new environment, to get used to new people, and then be ready. So it is important to let them know that this is just a normal situation. If they are afraid a little bit, if they miss their home, miss their family, but it's gonna be okay in a few months or even weeks. Usually universities have programs in English as well, but students who study in English still are expected to learn Russian. Universities can offer different variants. Sometimes students can take additional courses of Russian as a foreign language. Sometimes they can take courses specifically. For example, we have technical Russian. If they study mining in English, yeah, but they want to go in for master degree, they still have to know Russian. So it's a great opportunity, and we encouraged all students to take these courses. Russians are emotional, and international students shouldn't be afraid of this. Sometimes I see their situations when, especially in September, when their international students just come. Russian girls, yeah, very friendly. They like to hug, you know, to kiss on cheeks, laugh out loud. And some international students who in their culture is more distancing to strangers, yeah, they feel very embarrassed. They feel afraid of this. So it's important to let them know, and usually the universities have some seminars for students, yeah, telling them what to expect from peers, what to expect from the environment. And they shouldn't be afraid of this. It's just the expression of friendliness. And by the end of the year, they do the same. Speaking about about living in different environment, in cultural environment, it is important to focus on mentality, because mentality is something that determines everything. It determines how we think, it determines how we speak, it determines how we perceive others and how we see ourselves as well. So Russian culture is extremely rich. Yeah, for international students, it's a great opportunity to learn it, to get to know the traditions. And I'm sure, and a lot of students after they graduate, they say that they keep even these Russian traditions in their home families. Some of the things which are important to know about Russian mentality is authority. So authority is important, and it's one of the key aspects for not only for students and teacher relations, yeah, for all spheres of communication. So authority in a company, authority between teachers and students as well. And it's important to keep this distance, yeah, unless the person makes the steps towards you to a more informal relation. But it's the same as, you know, their collectivism and individualism difference with the Western culture. So Russian culture is more focused on collectivism. For Russians, it is important to think of themselves as a part of something bigger. And it doesn't mean how big is this team. Yeah, it can be just a family, it can be a certain community, it can be a nation generally. It all has some historical roots, yeah, for this, but for international students, it is important to know, yeah, that the teamwork is important, that group interests sometimes are more important than their individual desires. And I would say that for international students from Asian countries, it is easier, yeah, because they have more or less similar attitude to collectivism. Diversity is another key aspect, key concept. So as I mentioned already, there are a lot of ethnical diversity in Russian regions, languages as well, religion. So this is all makes easier for international students to adapt. Family values and traditions are quite important. Universities, it's good for students if they have a chance to live at least for some time in Russian family. And we practice this. For example, if students don't want to go home for winter holiday, yeah, they have a option to stay in a Russian family for this time. They don't go to university, but they stay in a family. They participate in all their, holiday, for example, and this is a new a New Year celebration, Christmas celebration, and so on. So this gives great insight, into the traditions, to see how the traditions and what values are in Russian family. Another aspect is flexible time perception. And what I mean is that sometimes, being on time is not on time. So for Russian students, 15 minutes is not being late. More than 15 minutes, yeah, it is. If you compare to some of their other nationalities, you know that on time is on time, yeah. This flexible time perception sometimes is said to be connected with their great territory of the country. And they say that the greater the territory of the country, the more flexible time perception is. And I can just, give you a story of how this works in practice. So if we work with some students on projects, and for example, they say that this should be done today, yeah? So we ask, when does your today finish? And they can say, tomorrow morning, for example. Okay, that's a good today. So it depends, yeah? The time perception can be different, and it shouldn't be their reason for any conflict, yeah? One more very interesting aspect is the secret of Russian smile. You probably know and heard and seen in many films that Russian is an unsmiling nation. So to a certain degree it is so, but let me tell you that it's a different smile. Here on the pictures, you can see some of their photos from the movies, yeah, and the picture of the astronauts, yeah. In the middle, of course, you can judge by the faces who is Russian, yeah. And it's not, this absence of a smile shouldn't be perceived as unfriendliness. So if you compare the smile in Western culture and in Russian culture, Russian smile is only biological reaction to positive emotion. So if a person feels like smiling, feels like having a positive reaction, then he smiles. So Russian smile is not communicative. We're starting to have, and we've been having for quite a long time already, the smile, which is, how to say, maybe service smile. If you go to a cafe, a restaurant, a shop, of course, the shop assistant will smile to you. Yeah, and this is quite normal. But don't be afraid of if strangers don't smile to you. This is just a normal absence of a smile. Yeah, it's not a formal sign of culture. And generally, I would like to summarize a little bit maybe why it is important for international students to learn culture, and what international students can get from living in Russia, like from living in any other country. How important is this for his future life? And I very like this picture of cultural iceberg, it is called. So on the visible part of the iceberg, we have something we see in a culture. We see when we come to another country. We see food, we see its different cuisine, we see the languages, which is different. Yeah, we know the literature, we see the holidays, we know that some of their symbols like flags, for example. We see that people is dressed differently, but we don't see the biggest part of it. And when students learn, when students study in another university, in another culture, they can learn much, much more than just this visible part. So they can learn the values of this nation, yeah, the mentality. They learn the body language. They learn what are the specifics of the gender roles in this culture. They learn etiquette, norms, importance of space, concept of fairness, and many, many others. So the longer the student is immersed in this culture, the richer he becomes. Yeah, and of course, this is just such a valuable asset that student can use for his future career, and for sure this will make his life successful. And I would like to share just a few quotes of our students who graduated this year. We had a student from China and India, and it just says that usually, of course, it's a family decision when the student comes to Russian university to study. And our student from China, just the same way. His father decided that he should study in Russian university. Now, upon graduation, so he has lived 4 years in Russian community and studied in Russian university, graduated very successfully. And now he thinks it's the best decision in his life. And I'm sure that in his professional career, in his personal career, this is one of the biggest goals. Another student from India, yeah, he also had some of their maybe fears. Yeah, he was a little bit afraid of coming to this country, but he knew about the quality of education. He also thought about their prices, which are quite affordable comparing to some other universities. So he came to study now in Siberian University. He was studying informational technology. Now he's finishing, he graduated the bachelor degree, and he goes in for master degree. After, he plans to go back to his country, but he says that he will always love his Russian friends and teachers, and they became his second family. So I think this is very valuable feedback from students who had some of the fears before, but after having lived for 4 years, yeah, their attitude and their impression and their experience has grown so much. So, dear colleagues, more or less, this is all I had to say about the specifics of Russian education and life. Thank you very much for your attention. Maybe we can have some questions.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I can actually help you with this. So thank you very much, first of all, for this presentation. And definitely, we as colleagues and partners, we often communicate on some professional issues like admission procedures and everything like this. But thank you for giving such, great context of what Russia has really has something to offer to international students, apart of high quality education. And definitely, I think this is very impressive what we have just learned from you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Maybe we can read the questions in chat.
Yes,
I can answer some of them.
Let me help you with this. So first question was that, was actually, just a minute. A person, this Shishir from Nepal, he was asking about admission requirements of your university, academic percentage, if you require IELTS or not, Russian language, and some stuff like that, and also academic gap. So can you please tell us more about?
Yeah, sure. There is we are working on their online portal, for accepting educational papers this year, but we don't have, for the programs, English or Russian, we don't have any language requirements, but we do hold a Skype interview with each of the students. So if maybe he knows Russian already, or he wants to go for English program, there is an interview anyway, As for his papers, so he should have an academic transcript, Russian language. If he goes in for their foundation course, of course, he doesn't need any Russian language. He will learn it while he's here. And after graduation from the foundation course, he can go in for the major programs, the bachelor or master degree. Did I answer that?
Yeah, I actually think that after this session, we will be able to send some materials answering the questions like this.
Okay, yeah. And we'll give more detailed information on the 27th.
27th, right. Yeah.
So about the application process and all that.
Right.
In presentation, there is my email and the university address. So if somebody would be interested to look in more detail.
We
So
will send
let's
it
look.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Yeah, let's look at the other questions.
Another question is that you have mentioned the non-professional education that is being implemented in your university. Is it available for national students to get enrolled to such programs?
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you for this question. There are programs which are being developed now, all will be distance learning. And these are the programs which we're launching this year, this September, for mining education, mining engineering, and for electricity engineering. These two programs are being launched in September. And yes, they will be full distance. It depends how much hours you can take. So additional education starts from 72 hours. So it can be just a few seminars, or it can be a diploma of requalification, so to say. Yeah, it's usually it takes about a year to study. At the moment, we do have these programs in Russian and in English, but they're all for the students who come here. Yeah, so for the next year, and we are able to receive the groups. For example, if there will be a demand for a certain program in mining or in engineering, we can develop a program, tailor it, yeah, specifically for your segment, specifically for the group which you have. So this is also one of the advantages of additional education.
All right, thank you. So we actually have kind of running out of time, so I would suggest us to keep shorter if possible. The question is, will the specialist degree be accepted and accredited globally? This is the question from our colleague from Egypt.
Specialist degree accepted, accredited globally. Students who get the specialist degree diploma, first of all, they can have their diploma supplement, European diploma supplement, where the hours and grades will be transmitted, yeah, into the credits. So usually students, even international students, if they want to continue their study, they can use this document, yeah, but it goes with their major diploma. They can make it depends also on the country the student comes from. He may need a recognition of the diploma, yeah. But usually, yeah, the specialist degree is accepted and accredited.
Okay, great. If you don't mind, I will skip the questions that are related only to your university, since you will anyway be talking about this in a week.
Okay,
so,
okay. Sure.
I would like to ask you,
there are contacts anyway in the presentation.
Yeah. Next actually question is from me. Do you accept credit transfer from international universities, like from abroad? If a person studies somewhere and he wants to continue studying with you, do you have such experience or not? And how this works if you do?
Yes, but so far
maybe
we
generally
haven't.
for Russian university.
Yeah, I see the question. Yeah, mostly, you know, what we face is credit transfer with their universities of countries of the former Soviet Union. So it makes it easier, yeah, from one side. For international students from other countries, it's not very often case. But it depends, yeah, it depends. If the students is being transferred to the same major, for example, he studied also mining and he had some of the courses with the same, which are the same in our program. So he can send us the transcript, and there might be, we might count them, yeah, in this program. We have, not only in our university, but generally there are programs of like dual degrees, similar. It's not exactly dual degree, but when students study in their home universities, for example, for 2 years, and then they transfer to our university for the next 3 years for a specialist degree. So at home, they finish their bachelor degree, yeah, and in our university, we count their credits, which they earn in their home university, and they go for, we call it individual schedule, yeah, individual, how to say, individual graphic, I don't know.
Schedule,
so,
yeah.
Schedule, maybe, yeah. So this way they are able to graduate from our university if they had studied in some other university, yeah, before. And if their university is not against, also graduate and count credits which he earns in our university in his home.
All
so
right.
it is possible.
All right, thank you. Also, if Russian universities have any admission tests apart from Skype interview that you have just mentioned, and what kind of questions do you ask during the interview?
Yeah, the interview is just mainly to check, to talk to the student, yeah, to see his level of language of Russian or English, to talk about the profession. For example, if he is applying to some technical major, let him know what he should expect. Yeah, let him know what areas he can work after that. There are some of the tests. Yeah, so we usually require for international students testing of math, but it also depends on the major. Yeah, so I would say I would give a more detailed maybe comment on that either personally or when we have time in red. Okay. And
yes, thank you.
There
Thank
will
you
be
very
also
much.
information on their university site as well.
All right. Actually, then if you don't mind, colleagues, I would like to tell you that we will definitely gather all your questions and we'll pass on to Inna and also to other participants of our Global Russian Education Day, since they would be able to prepare better for, to meet your requirements on what you would like to know. So then if you don't mind, I would like to thank you very much, Inna, for this wonderful presentation. Really, as one of the participants, I think this is our colleague from Ghana. He said that this is one of the best presentations so far in our cycle.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to share, and I hope that your students will make the right choice coming to Russian University.